Two Davids Walk Into a Bar was filmed in front of a live studio audience.
This is Two Davids Walk Into a Bar. I'm David Anderson, and with me, as always, is Mr. David Lawler. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing fairly well. I'm celebrating my 19th anniversary with my wife.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that earlier. That's great. 19 years of wedded bliss.
Wedded
Blissville. Wedded Blissville. And also, I want to. We have a special guest here, Mr. John Froelich. How are you tonight, sir?
I am good. How about you guys?
We're getting there. We're doing a special. I guess this is a wrap up episode.
This is the final episode of the history of cable.
Yeah.
And I'll remind you guys, I'll do my own plugging for this. I authored a series of articles for VHS Rewind and Blissville called Vintage Cable Box. And I might actually go back to that as a kind of a podcast based on my reviews. So
that'd be nice.
Yeah. It was an idea, I think, that actually my friend Scott Becker, who died recently, he gave me this idea that I should probably do something like that, like a Vintage Cable Box podcast. So I was thinking, I'm doing some stuff, as a tribute to him with the Twilight Zone podcast. So I think I might actually take up the Vintage Cable Box.
Now, will that be like a movie by movie kind of sort of highlight thing? What would that be?
Yeah, I might take my reviews, maybe spruce them up a little bit to be spoken more, and add video clips of the movies I'm talking about.
That might be a good idea.
Yeah, and it'll probably be small, maybe less than 10 minutes, that kind of thing for each movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you needed somebody to join in, remember I want somebody to talk about the stuff with because of Larry Cohen's passing.
The stuff.
Yeah, we actually brought it out.
Oh man, can I just say, every time I think about that movie, I think about how brilliant it is. I mean, it's not just a great horror movie; it's a great satire. It's like a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm. Now, we talked about Larry Cohen. I can't remember. Has that episode dropped yet? Where you talked about the ambulance?
Oh, that one I just finished editing. That'll probably be up in a week before this episode premieres. So.
All right.
Yeah, we talked about, because we were talking about Stan Lee and we were talking about the various tributes, and I mentioned The Ambulance, which is a great movie. Do you remember that one, Mr. Froelich?
I do remember it. I saw it one time way back when, before, right after I saw the stuff, I think. It's
on Blu-ray. It looks great. It looks fantastic. It's a movie that kind of disappeared.
I never heard of it.
Did Lustig do that one, or did Cohen direct that and write it?
He wrote and directed it.
Okay.
And he was friends with Stan Lee, and he was friends with a couple of the people actually involved in that. People on the New York Post were promoting it. Eric Roberts, Megan Gallagher, James Earl Jones, Red Button, Janine Turner from Northern Exposure. Just a wonderful movie. I love it.
We lost Froelich.
Oh, no. How did we lose him? There he is.
Back.
I'm back.
He came back. I'm going to do this with as minimal edits as possible. I figure we'll just shoot the shit. Let's talk about the things that we missed. And I want to talk a little bit about public access, because it was just such a, especially in the late 80s, early 90s in New York, public access was a world unto itself.
Yeah, we had a little bit of it here, but I'm sure you had we talked about I can't remember what show we talked about. We talked about Ugly George.
We did talk about that was a public access show, right? And he would you explained it in our Playboy
it's weird
episode.
that I seem to know more about it than you did, which is weird. I figure you know more.
Well, the problem was the cable service that I had in on the Upper East Side was more restrictive than Manhattan Cable TV. Manhattan Cable TV had all of this really kinky, sexy stuff on public access, on the weekends, usually Friday night, Saturday night.
We had these interesting sort of situations here where like they didn't know what the rules were until people started pushing the rules, and then they like made this sort of the smackdown of like, okay, these are the official rules. But before that, like people were putting up like porn clips
Yeah.
with commentary and things, and I'm like, geez, my goodness.
But was it the kind of porn that was like was
Actual porn.
it was actual with actual penetration and all
Actual
that?
penetration,
Wow,
money shots,
no.
the whole thing. Yeah.
That was
And
completely off limits in New York.
yeah.
So are we talking like Videodrome style shit here, like Max
Yeah,
Ren?
it would make you feel. If you watch Videodrome, you would feel like you were looking at a kind of a Videodrome thing when you stumble across some of the programming. Lots of like dancing naked women, Robin Bird, that kind of stuff. But we only got like I think they only showed like 4 or 5 episodes of Robin Bird. They never showed Al Goldstein. They never showed any Ugly George or any of that kind of stuff in my neighborhood anyway.
Yeah.
But there was like sometimes you would get these amateur filmmakers, and they would make little movies with their video equipment. They had a nice store of video equipment, high end editing stuff for the time, and they would make these really bold, fascinating like film projects and put them on public access because you could actually just as long as it didn't ping anything and it was part of their within their standards you could actually broadcast your own stuff on there.
I have a vague memory of there was a stand-up comedian, a local stand-up comedian. He made sort of this really like cheap special, like I think at the public access studios,
Right.
and it would pop up like every like couple of years. I'd see it on there, so it was like he was almost like showcasing himself.
Right.
And it would just pop up every once in a while. I'm like, oh, I remember this. I saw it like in 87, 89, 91.
You know what a good example is somebody that we both know. Gino Cuddy has his own
Yes.
public access program that he's the host of, and it's kind of like a late night talk show host kind of panel where he's sitting at a desk. He produces all this stuff. He does a really fine job too, actually. I've had my run. We've had our run-ins with Gino. Sometimes he worked with us and he worked very well, and sometimes he didn't. But I will say his stuff looks really good, and it's on a Connecticut public access channel. And I do encourage people to look at it because it's a very unique vision. He's a super talented guy. I don't want to take anything away from him.
I would say torture genius.
Yes, very much in the torture.
Emphasis
genius
on the
mode.
torture.
but a very talented guy, and he has some very popular YouTube channels that he puts a lot of obscure, rare stuff on. In addition, I helped write an episode of his show for him, and I appeared as a phone-in guest. I don't know where Gino is right now, but wherever you are, Gino, good night. So
Good night. Good luck.
good
I'll
night
at least
and
say
good luck.
this. I'll say this to you guys because just to get in on the public access thing real quick. We never had any of that out here on cable, as far as I'm concerned.
Right,
back when
we
I was growing
discussed
up,
that.
you only-
Right, we were
Yeah,
talking
but
about.
I'm just basically saying this for David Anderson because I've never talked to him about this. We never had public access out here. We had a couple of stations local that actually let you broadcast your own thing, as long as it fit the content, like you said, David.
Right.
And, but as far as cable goes, absolute zero. No public access, nothing whatsoever.
Yeah, Chicago. From what I understand, I've seen some of Ben's Oddity Archive stuff, and he talked about how the mob wanted control of cable TV, and the local government wanted the control of cable TV, and there was a lot of bribes going back and forth. And Chicago, as we know, one of the more corrupt towns in the union.
I will not deny this.
Yes. I'm so sorry for what's going on over there, John. It's just terrible.
Hey, look at what our governor just did. We are now the first state in the Midwest to have a smoking age of 21.
Wow, 21. Well, I don't know. That might be good, but I don't know how that affects the kids. The kids, I think, if you're going to take up some kind of smoking, you should vape because vaping is a lot safer than smoking.
You should, but their whole thing is they're trying to prevent kids from vaping because now the whole thing is juuling. That's what kids now do in high school. That was one of the main reasons they passed it to prevent kids from juuling.
Oh, okay. All right. I gotcha. So now moving on, we talked about a lot of things, and of course we did forget a few things. Well, I did want to mention a little bit about Cinemax, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the movie channel. because we only talked about like HBO and Showtime because those were the bigger channels, but Cinemax was owned by HBO and the movie channel was owned by Showtime.
Well, the
they
movie
were
channel,
smaller.
movie channel was originally, interestingly enough, it was sort of like every company sort of had their own premium service, and originally the movie channel was like was basically what would now be, well, who owns HBO now? It was like a Warner Communications sort of movie service,
Yeah.
and then eventually through a whole bunch of weird negotiations of people trying to like buy Showtime or merge with Showtime, eventually Showtime bought that from the movie channel or bought that from Warner or something, and then it became Showtime, the movie channel. That would have been like around 83. I think that was around the same time of that huge exclusive deal they had with Paramount.
Yeah.
When they bought like the rights to all the Paramount movies for 5 years for like $1 billion,
Yeah.
which is a ridiculous amount of money even today. Like I don't think that they pay that much for studios now. Like it doesn't happen. But I think that they needed the juice. I guess.
They probably got a really good return on the investment because that's when it really hit its
yeah, that
peak.
was the Paramount, like the 80, I think it was like 83 to 88. That was their prime time. That was their huge output of awesome movies. So that really did help.
And I might have
Showtime.
mentioned it before, but the movie channel was my favorite channel at that time in 84, 85 because of the kind of like movies that they put out, and they had these,
they were more sort of like
it was
like,
a filmmaker's favorite.
It's a
kind of.
filmmaker channel. They do like marathons of different, and they had all kinds of like weird obscure movies and foreign movies, just a whole bunch of different kinds of movies.
I learned a
Don't
lot
forget,
about
don't forget Joe Bob.
Joe Bob.
Oh, and Joe Bob, yeah, I remember. Yeah, that was the funny thing about the movie channel was when I got it, which was I believe like 86. I think you had like 3 hosts. You had I think Robert Osborne, some woman, and I can't remember her name, and then Joe Bob, and he would do the drive-in theater thing, and they would come in and they would talk about, it was kind of like the old AMC where the guy would come in, or TCM now, where the guy would come in and he'd talk about, here's the movie and here's what happened in this movie and here's the making of this movie and here's some interesting tidbits, and then they would show the movie. And
yeah, it was a lot like we were discussing. Remember, we talked about IFC in the early days when they showed movies uncut and commercial free. Reminded me so much of the movie channel.
But when I think a few years later, they kind of got rid of all the hosts except Joe Bob. They kept drive-in theater because it was probably their most viewed thing. Because, you know, like you said, they got the 3 Bs. You got your blood, you got your breasts, and you got your beasts.
And the movie channel showed R-rated movies in the daytime. They didn't care. They did not care.
HBO had the 7 o'clock ban for a while. Not anymore, but
not anymore. Yeah, they've kind of they kind of like, it's kind of movie by movie basis. Like they're not going to be showing 50 Shades of Grey in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, one of my big ones that I remember. This is way back. Do you guys remember the movie Miracle Beach?
Yes, Miracle Beach.
Yes, with Dolan's, Amy Dolan's, I think.
Amy Dolan's and Dean Cameron.
Yes.
I saw that. I want to say I saw it on Showtime, and when me and my parents were going to Hawaii. Now this was at nighttime, and I thought it was like this funny movie. And I remember, oh, cool, HBO's going to show it during the day. Fucking awesome, right? And then come to find out, it's this censored version
yes.
with zero nudity.
I remember that. I absolutely remember that.
I literally said, what the fuck is this
They
shit?
had that. They had a PG-13 or PG version, maybe PG-13.
What I remember of that movie was I seem to remember trying to skim through it. Now, maybe I just caught the PG-13, but I remember it being very... I'm like, this is about beaches. There's no breasts. What's going on now? It may have been the PG-13, or it may have been the R. Like the R might have been like very,
there was a lot of
very mild
R.
Had so much TNA.
There was a lot of nudity. Unfortunately, Amy doesn't get nude. She's like the only girl who doesn't get nude in the whole thing.
Oh no, so that neither does the lead actress.
The lead actress.
Yeah, well, I can't even remember her name right now, but she doesn't get naked either.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that movie about? What is that about?
Well,
is she a genie?
It's like a
or
sexy version of I Dream a Genie.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. She's the genie. Okay.
She's the genie, I think.
Yep, she's the genie.
Right.
It's like he's just a down and out loser. He gets kicked. His girlfriend cheats on him. He gets kicked out of his apartment. He's pretty much homeless. And then he finds her bottle on the beach, and then she pretty much grants his every wish
She
and
kind of,
desire.
yeah, she kind of tries to help him
except
out
it's
with girls.
PG-13. And you got Amy Dolan's there, and I don't think your wishes are actually being granted if she's not getting naked. I don't think.
And Dean Cameron, I'll add, was one of the leads on a show that I really adored called "They Came from Outer Space" with Tom Bresnahan, and I think Tom Bresnahan might have been in this movie too. They were kind of like a comedy team for a little while. They were in some teen sex flick. I forget what it was. I don't think it was Miracle Beach though.
I remember Dean Cameron. He was in Summer School. That's what I remember.
Yeah, and he was
Yep,
also in
Summer School
Men
was
at
the big
Work.
one.
Remember Men at Work with Emilio Estevez, directed by
Who
Emilio
doesn't remember
Estevez?
that movie, man?
He plays the pizza boy that they abduct, and Keith David thinks is having a flashback. Very funny movie, actually.
I haven't watched Men at Work in so long. Such a great movie.
It is. It got such bad reviews, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I will, and nobody ever gets the reference at work. Like somebody does something, I'll do the golf clap.
Golf
Nobody
clap.
gets it.
Yes. Oh, and sometimes we say the commie bastard gets no food. That's what we just scream that out. We go, the commie bastard gets no food. Oh, back in Fubai, he would have been killed the second he knocked on that door. I would have snapped his neck like a twig, and he never would have seen it coming either. It was really kind of funny because it was an in-joke because Charlie Sheen and Keith David were both in Platoon together.
Oh,
So it's kind of like an in-joke that they were doing these flashback things.
See, the shit you realize when you haven't seen a movie for so damn long.
So, all right. Well, with the movie channel, just one more thing. I learned a lot about filmmakers and filmmaking because of the retrospectives that they would have. I learned about John Carpenter. I learned about Stanley Kubrick. I learned about Brian De Palma. I learned about John Landis, Steven Spielberg, even obscure filmmakers like Bergman, Fellini, Lena Wertmuller, I remember, John Huston, John Ford. Orson Welles, all those, they would have these incredible retrospectives of these filmmakers, and just and you got such an education watching them, especially because they showed them constantly, so you could just watch. I didn't have a VCR at the time, but you didn't even almost need one because they would just be showing these movies constantly.
I just realized on the movie channel, and I'm hoping you can find the clip. They actually had this sort of thing, like it'd be like on it, like 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, VCR theater. They would basically put a premium, whatever their sort of big movie that month, or maybe a few big movies that month, and then they'd put them on at like late in the morning.
Late in the morning. Okay.
Record this show.
I do remember VCR theater because I believe one of the first movies they showed was their premiere of Kubrick's Clockwork Orange, like uncut, the X-rated or whatever, because some cuts were made, and they actually did put that on as part of their VCR theater.
Now I have a question about that. Now is A Clockwork Orange, like the versions you get now, are they all sort of the unedited?
No, they're all
version?
uncut. Every version's uncut.
Okay.
I remember when I first rented it at the video store, it was an old Warner clamshell.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And now this was my first time seeing it, so I didn't know about the cuts. But then when I bought my copy through the Columbia House Record Club, I had noticed a few different shots, and they were a little more graphic. So I'm like, okay. So when it first came out on VHS, apparently there were some small trims made. But then when I think they resubmitted it for a rating, like sometime after that, sometime in the 90s, and when it was re-released completely uncut.
Well, I'm pretty sure that the trimmed version is still just as disturbing. It's more about tone than anything.
I think one of the scenes in question that censors had a problem with was not the two rape scenes at the beginning of the movie, but one of the
it was the rape scene in the middle. It was the rape scene when he's getting detoxed, or when he's getting brainwashed.
Yes, it was the rape scene that they showed to him as part of a movie. Yep.
And that was the rape scene. I remember more snippets of that rape scene being in the version I bought in the 90s versus the original VHS I rented in the early 90s.
That was too much for them, apparently. It was because although in England they have a bigger problem with violence than they do with sex as far as censorship. I
think that movie was banned in England for a while.
Yeah. Kubrick actually banned it himself because he was getting death threats from people, and they were threatening his family.
He didn't want any trouble.
So
the whole thing now with Europe is animal violence. So it's like you take a movie like Cannibal Holocaust, for example.
Oh wow, yeah.
Any of the animal torture or any of the animal slaughter.
Yes.
Now, granted, it's real, but it's all cut out. But then here's where it gets stupid. You take a movie like Never Say Never Again.
I was gonna say that.
Never say never again.
They cut 5 seconds out of that movie because of a horse that fell.
Yeah, a horse gets like they jump off a thing with a horse and they cut. I don't know well, like if it looks different on mine because I only have like the sort of the cheap DVD. I don't even think you can get it on Blu-ray anymore.
You can't not anymore. Well,
and so,
in Europe you still can,
uh-huh.
but not in the U.S. It's out of print.
I just have like the cheap Orion home video one that came out like I got it for $8 or something, which is good because then I probably wouldn't be able to get it at all now. But yeah, so yeah, it's like this weird trim. I don't know if the American version how trimmed that is, if it's trimmed at all.
The other big one before we get back on track, Enter the Ninja.
Enter
really?
the Ninja.
All the cockfight scenes are cut.
Oh, okay.
Oh
from
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
European
Cockfighting. As funny as it sounds, it just sounds fucking hilarious. Cockfighting.
You have to take that clip from Night Patrol with the cockfighting.
Oh God.
Ding, ding.
Oh, Night Patrol. What an awesome movie. That's another one. Oh, when you mentioned Enter the Ninja, I just want to say Ninja 3: The Domination. Love that movie.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just got the new Blu-ray. a
Oh,
couple weeks ago.
how does it look? Have you looked at it?
It's beautiful.
Oh man.
Well,
So
to get super 80s on you, I actually the first time I saw that was rented it on beta. I'm just gonna say that.
I love those Golden Globus movies. Let me tell you.
Yes.
I can sound 90s on you. I saw that movie at a hotel after we saw David Copperfield,
Wait, The Magician.
the magician.
Not-
David
not
Copperfield.
the
I didn't
Dickens
actually go
character.
see it. Yeah,
Okay.
Dickens.
Yeah, because like it was me, my mom, my dad. We just popped on WGN one night, and then freaking this crazy ass ninja movie was on, and I was like, "This movie's epic. What is it?" And it's like Ninja 3, and I think I rented it like a week later and watched it on VHS.
Ninja 3, which has nothing to do with Ninja 2, except it has
Shokashuji.
playing a completely different role, but it doesn't matter because it's ninjas.
Oh, but you got Lucinda Dickey in there.
Yes.
Oh,
one of
yes.
those original Scream queens. She was also in Breakin', right? Or Breakin' 2.
Breaking 2, yeah.
Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo. God, love it. One more Golden Globus for you. I don't know if you guys remember this. It was a comedy. It had a big cast. Elliot Gould was the star. It was called Over the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yep, otherwise known as My Darling Shiksa.
My Darling Shiksa.
That's what Menachem Golan wanted to name the movie, but then Yoram Globus kind of vetoed him and said, "No, we're going to name it Over the Brooklyn Bridge."
What was that story that Elliot Gould told in the Canon documentary? He said he called Menachem Golan.
He called Menachem a cocksucker.
And Menachem Golan didn't understand what cocksucker meant or something.
Yeah, pretty much. And then he goes, "Menachem, I'm sorry I called you a cocksucker." You know what? That you talk about filmmaking, you are never going to see two guys like that ever again.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you never will. That kind of shitty / artistic filmmaking. You'll never see that shit
/
again.
artistic is the perfect
I'm still waiting. I mean,
description.
since MGM owns and they're actually MGM is actually bringing back the Orion brand slowly.
Mhm.
I'm just hoping since they own Canon, I don't know how much of they own. I mean, I know they own the library. I'm just hoping one day MGM gets it together like a studio and sort of recreates the Canon, like brings back Canon. I mean, to bring back Orion, why not bring back Canon? You know, and you could put the logo on and make schlocky movies, and it would just be that would be awesome.
And like schlocky, like for the sake of trying to make the greatest movie in the world, not like what, what sci-fi does now, which with all these
they're not making
Sharknado
bad.
movies.
They weren't intentionally making bad. Now, of course, every once in a while they'd crap out an actual good movie.
Yeah,
Runaway Train. Thank you very much.
Runaway Train. Yeah,
yeah. That was from that period when they were actually thinking that they could like spend money and make movies. That was like a 2-year period when then they ran out of money, and then Superman 4, and then stuff like that. Yeah.
So well, they mean the whole problem with them is they literally got too big for their britches. They figured, they broke their own rules. They should have stuck with low budget films.
Yeah.
At least for a while. Like I think we talked about this before. Of like they should have done like New Line, just make really cheap movies.
Well, yeah.
Make them slightly larger, and then get bought up by a bigger company, and then you can have real money and make real movies.
They were that was that we were talking. I was talking about that with Anders Legank when we were talking about Canon. We were talking about Sylvester Stallone. Was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. They gave him a lot of money to do 2 movies.
$25 million.
Yeah, and it wound up. I mean, I guess it sank them in a way.
I hope the check cleared.
Cobra made money, but Over the Top flopped.
Yeah.
Cobra made some money, but wasn't that sort of like through Warner Brothers? So
yeah,
Canon
Warner Brothers. Well, that was the deal they inked out at the time. Warner Brothers actually distribute. Remember, Canon was always an independent studio, and then in the early 80s, they partnered with MGM, And then after Bolero flopped, MGM said, "Okay, we're done with you."
Yeah, yeah.
So any other movies they made, they either distributed it themselves or they found another studio to distribute it for them.
Yeah, there was like
And also they made a lot of money off of, and it circles right back to cable. They made a lot of money selling their movies to cable television. So you'd see them all
in fact,
over the
I
place.
remember Canon was on HBO like exclusively up until I think about like 86 or something, and then they switched over, like Showtime bought up, and Showtime, I guess Showtime the movie channel goes back to the movie channel.
Yeah.
Showtime the movie channel bought up like Canon, and then they were on there until the bitter end, I guess.
Yes, I remember.
Well, then
until 86.
WGN Chicago station, they played nothing but Canon flicks all the time.
Oh yeah, and the funny
Wow.
thing is, I think that it's weird, like the TV rights, since like Viacom is part of Paramount, was part of Showtime, and that whole thing, anytime it shows up on cable, any Canon film is a Paramount thing. Like even if you try to stream like Canon films, sometimes they're on like the Paramount channel or something because they own it, like the broadcast rights. Now the video rights are probably, I think, are MGM.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
actual broadcast rights, which I think extend to the internet now, and I didn't know that,
Well, yeah, yeah.
are all Paramount. Like they'll start
All
with
of
like,
this gets chopped up. It gets channeled. It's like the subprime mortgages. This is what
like
they're doing
I
with
saw like
properties
one
now.
time Masters of the Universe was on, like it started with the Paramount logo, then the Canon logo, and I'm like, and the weird thing is that's on like Warner Home Video, still, I think.
John,
Well, the other thing back to that, Fright Night Part 2, whenever it's played on TV, it has the Paramount logo. But then, like the home video rights, nobody knows who has the home video rights right now because of the whole Menendez brothers thing.
Yeah, I think it was like New Century Vista, I think was the original.
Yeah, they were the copyright holder, but the whole thing was New Century Vista was run by the Menendez family.
Okay.
But then after they got killed, the rights just went haywire. Slowly but surely, they've been finding the rights. Like, the movie Dudes was New Century Vista.
dudes.
Yeah.
And then what is it? Shout Factory was able to pick that up, for Blu-ray.
I would figure that probably what got folded into like the Artisan Entertainment eventually, or IVE or something, and like it was like,
IVE. Well, because Dudes came out on IVE home video.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of those did, and then some, but then you got to remember, certain companies, the rights just get lost over time. You never know.
All right, I want to ask John about anything that we might have missed, but I also wanted you to tell us a little bit more about WGN, because we kind of skated over it a little bit, because I remember it was a network. It was a cable station for us in Tennessee. We had WGN.
I didn't have it up here. In fact, we had it. We just got it like on our cable services. I have up here. You can have Comcast or you can have Frontier, and it's on both of our cable services. It's kind of like a TBS now.
Right.
Well,
At the time, then it was different, I'm sure.
That's what it was broadcast as outside of Chicago, because it was called WGN, America's Superstation. That was in the cable market.
Yeah.
Yes.
What I told David Lawler was that there were only two constants with WGN in Chicago and nationwide. Was you always got Cubs games and you always got the 9 o'clock news.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Other than that, the programming was different in Chicago, and it was different across the country. Because, like, okay, here's one of my best examples. When I used to go to my grandmother's house back in the 90s, okay, one of my favorite shows was Tales from the Dark Side. Okay. Our WGN used to play it in syndication when it was on TV back in the early 80s. But then after the show ended, and then its sequel Monsters after that ended, it never played in syndication again unless you had Sci-Fi Channel or now Chiller.
Yeah, Chiller.
But when I loved going to my grandma's house was because always at 1 o'clock in the morning, every morning, they always played Tales from the Dark Side. And that's why I loved going to my grandma's, just so I could get my Tales from the Dark Side fixed back then.
Unfortunately, Cubs aren't doing so well so far. They started out there at 3-7.
They just won 2 in a row.
Well, they won 2 in a row. Yeah. Okay.
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I'm a Sox fan. Fuck the Cubs.
Sox. Let's see how the Sox are doing here. Yeah.
They're doing just as good as the Cubs right
Yeah,
now.
they are.
They're both shit as far as I'm concerned.
I'm a little worried because the Phillies have Bryce Harper and they're tearing it up. But anyway, that's baseball talk.
Were we going to go talk about Cinemax?
Cinemax or Skinamax, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Skinamax.
Skinamax. No, but they do have now. They have some original programming, right?
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
Fight Back, Strike Back,
Strike Back. Yeah.
there's a couple other things on there. Like I'm not. I mean, I don't watch a lot. They seem to be mostly movies. They're almost like it's the companion service to HBO. It's a lot of the stuff.
They kind of remind me a little bit of how the movie channel started out.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of like different kinds of movies
Yeah.
spread out over the schedule and
Yes.
everything. Whereas HBO was more like the greatest hits with the occasional like weird movies sprinkled through. Cinemax was always like ahead. It was like
Right.
less of the. Although for a while they would like premiere movies on Cinemax first. In fact, they've always done that. Like it'll be on Cinemax first instead of HBO first, and then end up on HBO.
Yeah,
like,
nowadays,
in
yeah.
months.
But I am seriously contemplating thinking about getting Cinemax again because I like their selection of movies. And when we had it in upstate New York, there was always you got a premiere like the Alien Director's Cut premiered on Cinemax. They would show different versions of Blade Runner. They would show Hitchcock movies. They would show all kinds of stuff. There was a lot of fun.
Oh, side note, I've already got it on pre-order, the 40th anniversary Alien 4K Blu-ray, and it only cost $15.
That's very nice. I'm going to see it. We're going to see it in October. It's going to be playing at our theater.
Oh, great! Yay!
And it'll be
You
awesome.
said in October it's going to be playing?
Yeah, I believe so. Let me check my note again here.
You're booked for
Yes.
6 months from now.
October 13th, 2019. It will be released. The 40th anniversary. I cannot wait to see it because I was not.
I'm down. I missed the 25th or whatever the 15th. It was in 2003. Oh yeah, the director's cut in 2003. I missed that back in 2003 because not a lot of theaters where I was at were playing it, so I didn't get the same chance to see it.
We get really great stuff at our theater, and I never got to see it, of course, because I was like 6 years old when the movie premiered. Or
Is it a
7.
Fathom events or is it just a regular release?
I think it might be a Fathom.
Okay.
I'm not sure. It might be a Fathom.
I'm fine with that because of Fathom events, I got to see Exorcist, Boondock Saints,
And also, they don't. You don't get a half an hour of previews. You know,
for Fathom events.
yeah. We've seen a couple of them actually, and we're going to be seeing a movie on the 10th. Actually, Terry Gilliam's Man Who Killed Don Quixote is finally making it to theater, so we'll be able to see that.
Limping its way to theaters,
They don't even have distribution. I don't know how they managed this, but they got it.
dragged along on a horse.
Amazon was supposed to pick it up for distribution, but they never did. Strange.
I'm just waiting to see The Day the Clown Died.
I don't know if we'll ever see that one.
Oh, a couple of years. Jerry Lewis said after he died, it will be there was a certain time that he stipulated in his will that the movie can finally be seen.
No, we'll see it around the time we see that full Mueller report, I think.
Then we can do the dead heat thing and just bring him back from the dead and beat his corpse to death.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else did we miss here? Running out of time. Basic cable. Any additional thoughts on basic cable, John?
Other than what we've talked about, USA was my go-to station, obviously because of Up All Night. TBS was another one of my stations, mainly for the Beastmaster and a ton of good game shows back in the day.
Back when it was fun, yes.
I don't know. I mean, I did nothing back in the 90s but watch a shitload of Nickelodeon. That's what I pretty much did.
Well, good. That's good to get your mind focused on that one. That's a good one. That's a good positive entertainment, at least for a kid, I guess.
I mean, back then it was. Now it's shit.
I think my cable memories of basic cable are basically before they started like having like addressable boxes and everything. You basically the premium stations would still be kind of on basic cable. They would just have like the line going down it and be squiggly, but you could still hear it. And that really came in handy with like the Playboy channel, because you could kind of, your imagination could work, and you could see like it's like American Pie. You see half of breast. I can work with
like,
that.
oh my God, is that a tit? It's a tit.
Yeah, I can work with that. Yeah.
Hey, ain't gonna lie, that's how it was for me. We didn't have the Playboy channel where we were at, but we had the Spice Network. So
Close enough. Yeah.
It worked out.
Yeah.
Spice. God, that was disappointing to me. I mean, it really was. I just, if you're gonna pay money, you should get to see everything.
Hey, we're working towards it now. I think if you actually get one of those channels, you get everything. I think nobody cares anymore. We have the internet to compete with.
Right.
Exactly. That's one positive of the internet. It got rid of all the freaking nudie stations.
You
And
put
you
them
get it
all
for
there,
free.
yeah. And it
I mean,
provides
as long
competition.
as you subscribe to the internet, there's a whole world of tits and ass that you're just a mouse click away from TNA.
Yeah.
That's pretty much
Although
it.
in my case, it's more like just looking up weird, obscure, like movie stuff and home video AV equipment and,
Yeah.
and being on Facebook groups and things like that. I'm kind of like almost past that now.
Okay, I have the two of you here. I'm going to ask the question. This is a final question.
Okay.
Do you think cable television will die as streaming becomes more and more popular? Not only just cable, but network television, all forms of this television that we get right now over cable. Is it going to die in the future as a result of all the popularity of all the streaming?
I would say let Froelich talk about this because he has a slightly younger perspective on this, and then I'll give my old fart perspective.
From the young person's perspective, no, cable will not die. The main reason is earlier last year we were considering cutting the cord and going full out streaming. We were considering it. Then we decided, you know what? It's not freaking worth it because I don't want to pay Hulu or Netflix. Like, okay, I don't want to have 300 subscriptions to all these different channels
Yes.
and pay as much as I would for cable. Okay, now granted, you've got CBS All Access, so you can watch Star Trek Discovery or The Twilight Zone or any of the other shows out there, and that I get. Okay, but if I want to watch older content, I'm sorry, I will use a damn hacked Fire Stick and I will watch my old shit that way. Because if it's more than 20 years old, I don't think you should pay to watch it. I mean, that's
point.
just from a young person's perspective. Okay. But you know what? I still watch. You know what? I'm glad we never cut the cord because you know what? I need my Better Call Saul. Big Bang Theory is going to end, but I watch that in DVR religiously. I still watch The Simpsons. I still watch all these shows, and I don't want to pay a premium to have to watch them when I already subscribe to them on cable and I have a DVR to record them all.
Yes.
All right. I want to give my perspective because I've been sort of evolving on this thought. Okay, now if you have just basic internet. Like good, it really comes down to like economy. If you have like solid internet, will run you what? If you're set up in a house or an apartment, what are we talking like $80?
Yeah, $80
really...
off contract, meaning no promotions, no nothing. And if all you have is internet, $80 a month.
Okay, we'll say $80 a month. Now, then you get you can have something that's very similar to cable at a cable box if you get something like say like a DirecTV Now or something like that, which is basically a cable service but through the internet, and then you would select your channels, and that's basically like a cable channel lineup. You can do it that way. I think that we're slowly evolving towards that. Cable is just it's nice to have cable because like my total cable bill is like $180 some, but I have like 2 DVRs. I have high-speed internet. I do it more for a convenience factor, but I can see how it could end up evolving where you get internet and then you subscribe to like a cable service, but it's on the internet. Like you basically get like a live channel lineup, a whole thing. And then you get like you get your Netflix, you get your Hulu, you get your Amazon or everything. So you have like a few apps, and then you have like your main cable app. And I'm always of the opinion of they're going to find a way to sell us stuff if they can. So I think that no matter what happens, we will be entertained. We will be entertained. Are you not entertained? We will be entertained. No matter what happens, they're going to find a way to sell us stuff we don't really need.
Well, I think what might happen, I kind of split the bill between you two guys. What I think is going to happen is your invisible hand, your marketplace is actually going to speak for those two entities and drive up competition and lower prices. They're going to do anything they can to keep your business. So I think we're going to see prices fall, and we're going to see more product. So that's what I think. I think the cable companies are scared to death of streaming. Streaming knows they're getting more and more subscribers every day, and they're going to react accordingly.
Well, I know there's this new thing where you get, if it's with Comcast, and they have this new sort of Xfinity super duper box where you can you basically put all your instead of having a Roku, it's basically like a Roku or a Fire Stick or something like, or a streaming device in your cable box, except done more crappily and more integrated.
And I will attest to that. I have that service, and let me tell you right now, you do not know how many times a day I have to reboot that damn box.
Yeah, they're not quite ready with that technology. I mean, I have a TV, and it's like the most simple thing. Now I have a cable box with a DVR that goes in. It goes through my surround sound receiver, and then I have just the video in on the TV, and that's great. So it's easy to get to. And then the TV itself has a built-in Roku. So all I have to do is, like, the main screen is basically audio video input, which is everything going through the receiver. And then all these apps are like on the screen. It's so easy. I can just go, oh, Netflix, boom. CBS, boom, I'm done. It's way simpler. If you have a cable box, you got to go through the cable box. You got to do the cable box. You got to go to the main screen. And then they probably hit you with a commercial or something as you're trying to do things. And it's like,
well, no. Like with Comcast, all you have is, I can tell you right now, the only apps you have are Netflix, Amazon Prime, and a new one they put on called Tubi.
Oh, okay. I think I have Tubi on the Roku somewhere.
I've heard of Tubi. Yeah.
We almost got Hulu because they were doing that promotion last year around Christmas time, like $12 for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then my wife was like, "Okay, let's get it." And I'm like, "Well, there's no app on the Comcast box." She goes, "Oh, fuck that! I'm not using your damn Xbox."
Yeah.
I don't have that was her response. She says, "Fuck your Xbox. I don't want to do it."
I have Hulu, and I got Hulu kind of first. I was somewhat cable challenged where I lived, so I got Hulu so I could have there's a lot of like network stuff on there. So I'm like, good. It would be like having like low basic. And then when I got it, and then I got cable, I kept it because there's still a lot of original programming on Hulu that you can watch, and I can watch network stuff, and the picture quality is better when I stream it as opposed to cable, because cable they really fudge the compression on those things.
Well, because it's all 1080i off the MPEG-2 satellites. I mean, that's where they say Japan's ahead of us, because they actually do. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, Japan cable, they can broadcast at full 1080p.
Well,
okay?
I know
in
that
the
sometimes
US we can't.
I know that sometimes, because when you have ABC or Fox, they broadcast in 720p, and then I think the cable box down converts it to 1080i, and then the TV upscales it. It's like it's like processed and processed and processed.
It's processed 3 times over, and this goes back to MPEG-2 compression.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly and truthfully, if you live in the States and you want the absolute best picture you're going to get off a broadcast, you get satellite.
Yeah.
Satellite is the best picture quality you're going to get because it's an uncompressed 1080i signal off of the MPEG-2 satellite, and it's not recompressed 700 times over.
That was another reason why I watched the Hulu, because it's like when I watch ABC programming, but they put it's on the Hulu, I think they actually do it in 1080p, so it's way crisper and way better. And if you have good streaming, if you have good internet working, it works great. So that's why I keep it. And I see the future, and like, gosh darn it. I mean, okay, so I probably pay a total of maybe $200 a month for all of my entertainment. I'm totally okay with that, because I need to be entertained. I work hard. I want to just be able to chill out and have internet and watch my stories. That's not too bad. So that's my final opinion. It's not.
You sound like a 60-year-old woman when you say watch your stories.
I'm gonna watch my stories. Well, I'm a 47-year-old man.
These are not the days of our lives, okay?
That'd be my mom's show.
Now I'm gonna have to dig up a Days of Our Lives clip. Okay.
All right.
Let's wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for being a part of this. John Froelich, David Anderson, myself. I'm going to thank myself. I'm going to thank my cat for constantly meowing in every damn podcast I do. She's a ubiquitous presence now. That's it. That's it for the history of cable. Once again, thank you.
I think we did good.
It was a very comprehensive show.
I hope
comprehensive.
So. Yeah.
It sucks I got in on the back end of most of it, but at least I got to do the final hurrah.
You're always going to wind up in the back end.
Whoa, hello.
Yes.
Yes, you are correct, sir. Well, you came in and you did little segments. And then,
I know, that's why I said the back end.
The back end.
I was the guy. I think I was at the end.
I was the one that said, hey, we should probably have Froelich come in at the end at least, because he's doing those segments. We should have him come in and do a little bit more.
Yeah.
Oh, I do appreciate that. I still want to. I mean, I love doing this stuff. Granted, only like maybe 20 people watch it, but who gives a shit?
Yeah,
Let's
that's
keep
the
voice
shame.
out there.
Like, man, we do great shows and nobody cares
Like I said,
except
our
us.
shows are growers, not showers. We wind up getting a million numbers. Like it'll take a few years, but people will catch on. They'll find it,
Well, let's hope so.
especially the way I'm doing it now. So that is the end. And thank you once again. Thank you for listening, all 20 of you out there. I know all your names: Bob, Jim, Dory, Susan, Terry, Douglas. Thank you all for listening. And say goodnight, guys.
Good night.
Good night.